Coming up on today's show, could the Seattle Seahawks potentially sign veteran Calais Campbell? We'll look into that possibility. Also, Jarran Reed, is he on the chopping block? Could we see him cut as a part of the post-June 1 cuts? We will discuss that and more coming up in just a matter of moments. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for stopping by here on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. Before we go any further in today's show, a little fan survey for the 12s out there. I want to know, are you a Seahawk fan from the Pacific Northwest? If you are, go ahead and like today's video. If not, if you're one of our great members of the 12s from elsewhere, comment in the comment section where you're watching today's show from. Would love to see some love from the 12s all over this great country, all over this great land. Let us know in the comment section. We'll get started with today's show. Calais Campbell, the veteran defensive end, he's still looking for a new home in NFL free agency, was most recently with the Atlanta Falcons. And the folks at Yardbarker are suggesting the possibility that the Seahawks should look into signing Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell's been a veteran in this league who's had a very good career, a lot of Pro Bowl appearances, won the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year several years ago, was on the NFL's All-Decade team for the 2010s, and he continues to beat Father Time, right? Father Time's only loss, it appears to be, is to Calais Campbell. So what about the idea of bringing him to Seattle? Let's check out more what Yardbarker had to say. This is not a huge pressing need because the Seahawks were a top 10 team in sacks in 2023 and have a really good duo with Boye Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu. They also addressed the defensive line in the draft with Byron Murphy II and have Leonard Williams returning. But you can never have enough good pass rushing depth in the NFL, especially in a division where you have to compete with the offenses of San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I'll say this. I have always liked Calais Campbell. I think that he's had an outstanding career. He's going to get his name called in Canton someday. But even with that said, eventually Father Time has to catch up, right? I'm a little skeptical of the idea of signing a 37-year-old pass rusher. I would prefer, personally speaking, that if the Seahawks are going to make any more moves like this, that they look into younger talent, guys that they could potentially develop and keep around long term. If you bring in Campbell, then you're talking about a one-year short-term rental, if you will. Campbell, we mentioned most recently with the Falcons. Before that, he was with the Baltimore Ravens, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Seahawk fans are very familiar with him from dealing with him in his time with the Arizona Cardinals, where he just dominated the defensive line there for Arizona for a number of years. In that stretch, we mentioned the 6 Pro Bowls, the NFL All-Decade Team membership, and you look at the statistics. Even with his age, he hasn't slowed down. This past season, when he went from Baltimore to Atlanta, his numbers were even better than what they were in 2022. Played in all 17 games, had 6.5 sacks, 17 QB hits, 10 tackles for loss in 56 tackles. And one common theme that we've seen with Mike Macdonald throughout this offseason, with the people that he's brought in, is going with what he's familiar with. And it's worth noting that Calais Campbell spent a season in Baltimore with Mike Macdonald there. So he's coached him before. He knows all there is to know about Mike Macdonald. Calais Campbell would be ready right from the jump to play in this Seahawks defensive scheme. But it doesn't stop there when it comes to familiarity. John Schneider has seen a lot of Calais Campbell over the years, and he's quite the fan of Calais Campbell himself. In fact, when the Seahawks signed Draymond Jones last offseason, Schneider talked about Calais Campbell and their search to find the next Calais Campbell of sorts. Listen to this, what John Schneider had to say last offseason. We've been searching for that big, long 3 technique, a guy that can be an inside pass rusher with length. We were playing against Calais Campbell in Arizona for so long. We were like, that body type, that physicality, we need that. So with that in mind, instead of looking for somebody that looks like that guy, what about the idea of the Seahawks just getting that guy instead with Campbell? I have some hesitation here, but I'll be honest, if they do make this move, I'm not going to be completely oppose this possibility. This could be a risk worth taking for the Seahawks and not cost a ton with Campbell towards the end of his career. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks sign Calais Campbell? Let us know in the comment section. It's our pinned comment today. Y for yes, N for no. Weigh in the comment section and tell me what you think. Today's show is sponsored by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose two or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points, maybe it's points in basketball, goals in hockey, maybe you're talking home runs in baseball. You can mix and match different sports leagues. Very easy to play with Prize Picks. And this week, the NBA Conference Finals getting started on Tuesday night. The Boston Celtics taking on the Indiana Pacers. And we're going with a nice sheet for Tuesday night's action. Let's tell you about what we got. We got Jason Tatum to have more than 10 rebounds. Got TJ McConnell to have more than 10 points. And Tyrese Halliburton to have more than 19.5 points. If all three of these hit, let's say we put $20 down on this, folks, we're making $100 on Prize Picks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/SailItS. Promo code SailItS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Glad to have them on board here on today's show. Is the clock ticking on Jarran Reed's second tenure with the Seattle Seahawks? Seahawks Wire, the Seahawks USA Today site, does a really good job covering the Seahawks. They are suggesting that Jarran Reed could be on the chopping block, that he ultimately could be cut here in the coming weeks with the post-June 1 cuts here on the way. Here's more from Tim Weaver of Seahawks Wire. By drafting Byron Murphy II, the Seahawks got another versatile disruptor up front who can play three tech as well as nose tackle. That might enable them to cut their current starting nose tackle, Jarran Reed, which would save the team $4,870,000. Now, let's be honest here, folks. You look at the Seahawks' salary cap situation. They don't have a ton of money. In fact, they're a little bit in debt, about over $200,000 over the cap at this point in time. So they need to find some cash. But even with that said here, getting rid of Jarran Reed would not be the first choice I would make if I'm John Schneider and the Seattle Seahawks here, because we saw last year Jarran Reed did a lot for this Seahawks team, specifically in that first half of the season. And one of the things that you've done with the moves you've made this offseason by bringing in Jonathan Hankins and drafting Byron Murphy is you have depth now at the interior of the defensive line really as a whole, that you didn't have before with this Seahawks team. That unit has gone from a unit of weakness to a unit of strength in one offseason, and Jarran Reed being a depth piece in that unit is a big reason why. So I don't want to cut Jarran Reed, but based on the money situation, you might have to. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks cut Jarran Reed? We're going to talk more about this here in just a second, but want to hear from you guys first. C for cut, K for keep. Let us know in the comments section below. All right, more on Jarran Reed. He rejoined the Seahawks in 2023 after he was originally drafted by the team. Had some stints in Kansas City and in Green Bay. And last year, for this Seahawks team, he was the second highest graded returning interior defensive lineman to this unit from last year's roster. And you look at the statistics, he had the best season that he's had in a very long time. 7 total sacks, 7 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, and 54 tackles. You can see those were his best numbers that he's had in the last 4 seasons. Now, as far as the Seahawks situation goes and where he fits with what Mike Macdonald is trying to do defensively, the issue for Reed will be whether or not he can show up against the run, which has been a constant theme that we've talked about with this Seahawks defense for the entire offseason, and really for a number of years, if we're going to be completely honest here, is how good you can do against the run when you're on that front 7. And we know that Mike Macdonald is going to mix up the defense a bit. He's going to run some 3-4. He's going to run some 4-3. Can Jarran Reed be versatile enough to be able to do both defensive schemes and also hold his own in run defense? Because the numbers last year according to PFF, show, yeah, he was solid against the pass rush. His coverage grade was a little mid, 64.3. But the run defense grade from Jarran Reed was pretty pathetic, if we're going to be honest, a 53 with an overall grade of 63.5. Right now, the Seahawks defensive line, Draymond Jones is moving to the edge position, at least it seems right now. And so the idea is that if the season began today, Jarran Reed would probably start at the nose tackle spot, Byron Murphy at the defensive end spot, and Leonard Williams at the other defensive end spot. But in theory, if you did move on from Jarran Reed, you could move Murphy to the nose tackle position, move Draymond Jones back to the defensive end spot, potentially go from there. Somebody has to go. They got to find cash somewhere, and unfortunately, it might have to be Jarran Reed. I hope it's not the case. I want Jarran Reed on my team, and I think that he makes this team better. Even with the question marks when it comes to the run defense, I think you still get more good than bad, but we'll see. It'll be something to monitor over the coming weeks if Jarran Reed is still a member of the Seahawks or not. Speaking of cuts, since we know they are coming, who is a player that the Seahawks should cut? Weigh in the comments section. Give me a name that comes to mind that you think Seattle should move on from. If you enjoyed today's show, do your part. Like today's video. We certainly would appreciate it. Always a great time when we're here with you on Seattle Seahawks Today. I'm Tyler Jones. Got some great coverage coming up throughout the week. We'll be talking OTAs tomorrow. We will see you then.